Hello and welcome. Now, the first question here today is, so is Buddhism of the belief that humans are in essence good? Yes, in essence, that is correct, but Buddhism isn't of the belief. It is a Dharma, so teachings, that show us the way to see clearly our inherent nature, in that out of previous karma in previous lives, we have been good enough, very good in fact, to be so fortunate to have been born into this human realm, and even more so, born into an era, a time when there is still in existence this Buddha Sasana, this Buddhist religion, the teachings of the Buddha, and the Sangha. The Sangha being the lineage of disciples that can be traced right back to the Buddha, our teacher, and his first disciples, to this day, 2,569 years later. In some of the Abrahamic faiths, belief systems, religions of the world, it is often the perception that we are born sinners. In Buddhism, it is not this. We are born as a result of good karma. However, we are born into this world with basic defilements. These we call greed, hatred, and delusion. You're familiar with those words. In the Pali, it's lobha, dosa, moha. It is these defilements, greed, hatred, and delusion, that can lead us as we mature in life, as we grow up, are educated, become adults, and move through life, to take on a persona, a personality, an image, to have a life, a lifestyle, as a result of desire, wanting to become, ambition. We cling to things. We attach ourselves to ideas, philosophies, and to materialistic aspects of existence. All of this comes as a result of that third defilement, delusion, which is not ignorance, it is not having no knowledge. We can have an immense encyclopedic knowledge, intellectual knowledge, facts and figures. But delusion is where we don't have the understanding and the application ability. In other words, common sense. The teachings of Buddhism, the teachings of the Buddha, point us in the direction of seeing every experience, all we encounter, which is all as a result of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking or imagination, is of our own creation by way of how we perceive, how we recollect through that sense contact, that experience, how we generate liking or disliking or a neutral feeling towards something. Buddhism shows us that before that greed took over, or hatred or disliking took over, we would have approached all experience in a somewhat neutral capacity, with no recollection, and just accept things the way they are. And the way they are is, and we see this through the practice, is impermanent, unsatisfactory, and not within our control. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. 3 important Pali words, which are the characteristics of existence. All conditioned things, everything we can experience through seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, even what we can think about, imagine, and how we feel emotionally is, and there is no exception to this, impermanent. Even the universe is not permanent. And this can be seen in the life of an insect, which may be, say, a mayfly, something of this nature, which maybe lives for 28 or 24 or 48 hours, whereas an elephant might live for 100 years, or a tortoise 100 years, or something like that. In the perception, in the eyes of that creature, that individual, it's a lifetime, whatever the time scale. But our natural inclination, our tendency, is to cling to and to overcomplicate through that clinging to. So the belief that all humans are in essence good is the material we are given when we're born. Without the understanding that we have these inherent characteristics of greed, hatred, and delusion, we may follow one or all 3 of those directions. Our personality can generally move towards a greedy personality or a hateful personality, and the less easy to see, but is within us all, a deluded personality. It being difficult to see because we are deluded. Just not understanding how to apply what we instinctually know. Now, in any given situation, if another being is suffering, we will naturally feel the need to help them, whether it's a human or an animal. Very few people don't have that degree of compassion to help one another. And the Sangha, monastic life, monks and nuns, are reliant on the support of others for their existence. And that is a very significant living example of how people, many people, live their entire monastic lives as a result of generosity of others, of humans' good nature, of humans' will to help others, through no gain for themselves, just to give. So the Sangha is a living embodiment of goodness, people's goodness, other people's goodness, lay practitioners' generosity. Otherwise, the Sangha, through the way its Vinaya, its code of conduct, its rules, dictates the way we live or guides us in the way we live, would not be able to survive. We are dependent on lay practitioners. And we can see this for ourselves, so we don't have to believe this for ourselves. People can get carried away and go into a direction of misbehavior, of cruelty, as a result of delusion, as a result of greed and hatred. But at their very basis, there is still their inherent goodness that brought them to this existence, this birth into the human realm. But through education, through societal influence, through cultural influence sometimes, it gets covered up, hidden. Like a window, a glass that gets covered in dirt and you can no longer see clearly through. No light can come in. And Buddhism teaches us how to clean this window, this glass, to polish it even, so as all the light can come flooding back in and we can see clearly. Another Pali word for seeing clearly is vipassana, which is why we practice meditation, to simply sit and do nothing and develop the ability to concentrate our minds on just one thing, which enables us to see clearly these characteristics of existence. But the basis of being good, the basis of goodness in Buddhism is very simple. It isn't to be believed, it is to be experienced by ourselves. And the way we can do this is simply keeping precepts. Only 5 precepts, 5 rules. And by doing that, we can experience a marked difference in this life, in this existence. Not after this life. Yes, it will generate good karma for our next birth. Unless we attain to enlightenment, where we're free from suffering in this lifetime and free from future rebirths, true liberation. But within this lifetime, and even this present moment, keeping these precepts is enough for us to experience and see true goodness, with no belief necessary. So those 5 precepts are just not to kill, steal, sexual misconduct, lie, or take intoxicants. Just 5. No killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, or lying. And taking intoxicants is not necessarily morally abhorrent, but it is possibly harming yourself and indirectly harming others, but most importantly leads to a lack of mindfulness. Mindlessness, if you like, which can lead to us breaking those other 4 precepts or acting in ways more subtle, but that will lead to the breaking of those precepts or harming ourselves or others around us. So it is a very important precept, that 5th precept. We must abstain from any intoxicants, anything leading to mindlessness. Coffee, tea, stimulants of that nature, Coca-Cola even, it's not a problem to keep you awake. These are stimulants, not intoxicants. So if everybody on the planet kept those 5 precepts, yes, humanity would be good. We'd all be living in harmony, bliss, joy and peace, tranquility with each other. But unfortunately, there are those whom are less in touch with the Dharma, are not keeping precepts, or even if they're trying to keep precepts, will still follow their defilements of either greed, you know, just wanting a little bit more than they need. Or hatred, just, you know, not putting up with the things the way they are and running away, escaping, hiding from reality, from the truth of the situation, of the way it is. So the practice, even monastic life, is not that. It's not running away, hiding from the truth of the way things actually are. It's facing it head on, facing experience, all experience, physically, materialistically, mentally and emotionally. Head on as to what it is its cause. Why is it a situation we don't like? Why is it a person or an individual we don't like? Or we even hate? It is because they're not the way we wish them to be. We wish them to be otherwise. But if we can remember with compassion that if only they knew, speaking of individuals here, that by their misconduct, for example, they're harming themselves more than they're harming others. We, with compassion, can understand it's just through their lack of seeing clearly, lack of or overwhelming delusion, that they are breaking precepts. And we will only wish to help them, not harm them. Maybe support them rather than avoid them. But that doesn't mean to say that we don't avoid unwholesome relationships. Because there are those that do not wish to lead a good life. So we can't say with a blanket expression, all humans are good. But yes, in their essence, the very basis of human existence is based on good karma in previous lives, having led you to this birth in this life, in the human realm. It's all about keeping precepts. That's what Buddhism is about, and it makes everyone good, with a view to just eroding those 3 defilements. So somebody is wondering here, oh, this is about the meditation, Sala. Do you see yourself managing and living in the new facility? Not in the near future, but maybe when you become an Ajahn. Okay, so an Ajahn is a Thai word meaning teacher. It's often a name given to monks, nuns as well, after they've had 10 vasas, been a monk for 10 years, of the Thai tradition, Thai forest tradition. But it comes from the Pali word acharya, which is teacher. But you have people in Thailand, for instance, who might be university lecturers, whom are called Ajahn, both male and female. So Ajahn isn't really a monastic term, it's just become associated with senior monastics or teros, so monks of more than 10 years. With regards to the Samadhi Sala, this is nothing to do with it. Where I live is this kuti, where I am talking to you from now, which is just a small room, and that is suitable for any monk of any number of vasas to live. We don't have different accommodation or hierarchy of standards for monks of more experience or less experience. We all live either communally or in solitude. The building we have renovated and is nearing completion, albeit it's come to the very difficult part now. The construction itself is quick and logical. Now comes the part where one invites others' suggestions and should it be this colour, that colour, should there be chairs, should there just be cushions, should there be mats, what should the Buddha Rupa look like, how should it be? All of this, it gets very, very, very disturbing really. But this will just come naturally, because it is not mine, what you're seeing there. It is not for me, it is yours. We are building it. It's our community project. As a result of your generosity, it has happened very quickly and is nearing completion. But it is for the use of local people, visitors coming. Myself also will meditate in there. It is a meditation hall, and it is solely for that purpose. Maybe there'll be some odd ceremonial occasion or festival occasion where there'll be gatherings in there, but primarily it is a meditation hall. Not so much, but possibly a Dharma hall. These talks will be coming from there as soon as the lights are on and the fans are in place, but I think that's a few weeks off yet. But it's not a place for anyone to live, so it might look impressive, but it's really a hall that will be cool, and that's quite a feat in itself, to have nice thick walls, which is why we renovated an old building with nice thick stone walls and a high roof, plenty of ventilation to keep it naturally cool, just maybe with the assistance of some quiet ceiling fans to help with that. So that's what it's for. It won't need much by way of management. People are good, as we were just talking about, and it is as a result, purely, that its existence is as a result of humanity's generosity to support a useful community project that will help many now and future generations to come. Someone else referring to that. Right. Which Buddhist mantra ghost trouble? So if you're having troubles with ghosts, then the Buddha recommended chanting not specifically ghosts, but some tree devas that were upset with some monks whom weren't necessarily behaving as well as they might be, or they were just a little fearful of the tree devas, the beings living in trees. He recommended that they chant the Ratana Sutta. So if you look up the Ratana Sutta in the chanting book, and you can chant that full chant, or you could take a section of it, get to understand it in your own language, and just use that as a mantra. But essentially, ghosts are in your own belief and imagination. So stop thinking about them. They cannot touch you, they cannot hurt you. They're not physical. They're not made of elements that can interact with you and me. So you might even see ghosts, hear ghosts, smell, taste or touch ghosts. But mainly that's as a result of your perception thinking about ghosts through stories you've heard and been told. Put them aside, let them go. If they're there, they're there. There's ghosts here, I'm sure. There's 2 by the new Samadhi Sala, there's 2 graves. So it's like a little graveyard where people are buried. Privately, it's the back of someone's garden, I think, or used to be. Maybe there are ghosts here, but they're not of immediate concern. Snakes, there are many snakes which are possibly poisonous. They should be of a little more concern, but not much. As long as you're not harming them, they won't harm you. And this is the nature of chanting the Ratana Sutta. We saying to those tree devas, any presence that might be around, that we're not there to do any harm. We're just practicing quietly and we're going to leave you alone in order that we can stay here and practice. And then they will leave you alone. So don't worry too much about ghosts. They're not going to harm you. I am wondering if those with mental illness are considered responsible for their actions. For example, in the case of dementia or psychosis or special needs. So I think there comes a time with all of us where our mental ability is diminished or can diminish to the extent that we are not responsible. However, the way it is associated in Buddhism and in relation to karma, and going back to those 5 precepts in relation to those precepts of not killing, not stealing, no sexual misconduct, lying or taking of intoxicants, it is based on intention, and very much intention alone. If you're walking from here to the Samadhi Sala, which is not very far, the likelihood is you may inadvertently tread on an ant or something, harming it, but it was not your intention. And it's very difficult to walk without, or move, or even exist without harming something or another. But we do our very best. Our intention is not to kill or cause any harm. So we do our very best to be careful, practice mindfulness, and not harm others. This is our intention. Now, when we lose cognitive ability or mental capacity through illness, something of that nature, then our actions will still have results. But if those actions were not volitional, unintentional, then the karmic results will be lessened. Of course, if we are not responsible, we are considered mentally, diminished responsibility, something like that they would say in court, and we kill someone, we'd probably still need to serve a punishment, and there is still negative karma generated, even though we were not mentally responsible. We did harm, and that has its karmic results. The reason for us being in that position was as a result of previous causes and conditions, whether in this life or a previous life, which have led to this current situation. So it is all a balancing out of karma. Karma just means actions, vipaka is the results of those actions. Pachaya are the causes and conditions we put in place. Now, if we lead a life whilst we're mentally well, of virtue, keeping 5 precepts, keeping sila, then those habits, previous bad habits, where we might digress, break those precepts, will become new habits of avoiding breaking precepts. We develop hiri and ottappa, a conscience and conscientiousness of that conscience. That becomes a quality, along with other qualities we develop, like metta, loving kindness, compassion, karuna, mudita, joy, and upekkha, equanimity. But in the context of this comment, this question, if you've led a morally virtuous life, then even with conditions such as dementia or impaired cognitivity, is that the right word? But mental illness, you will still have it in your nature to be good. You will still find it difficult to break those precepts. But if you haven't led a life of moral virtue, such an illness isn't going to change that. In fact, like taking intoxicants, if one takes alcohol or drugs that affect the mind, very often the way you are feeling, or the way you have been, is not covered up, obliterated, as often people think it is, but your most predominant characteristic, whether it's greed, hatred, or delusion, becomes exaggerated. So if you're a hateful kind and you drink alcohol, you might become loud with that and violent and aggressive. If you're a greedy person and you drink alcohol, you might just become a little bit more greedy and gluttonous even, or even steal. So mindlessness can take hatred into killing and doing harm, greed into stealing and taking from others what is not yours. That comes from mindlessness. This is why that impairment of the mind, the fifth precept, is so important. But if you've kept precepts all your life, or for a significant part of it, you're naturally of a nature to be good, kind to others, even with such conditions as debilitating as they are, mentally and physically, like dementia, Alzheimer's, you will carry on with those virtuous ways of behaviour. Now, that's not to say there aren't other mental illnesses that I'm not, experienced or qualified enough to talk about or understand, that have a personality altering nature about them. But again, if it's not your intention, you've in all of your life kept precepts, and with that intention done no harm to either yourself or others, even with such illnesses, it's very difficult to attach responsibility to the individual. Karmically and legally, let's say, when they do something wrong, but not being their intention. Oh, another question about the meditation hall. Are there any expectations that the meditation hall will have any magical or special properties to it? For example, would it provide a better meditation experience than other meditation places? So, and you say, you're just asking in case my hunch is right. Well, you see, any place of religious practice, let's say, of prayer and worship or meditation, in the case of Buddhism, if it is just used for that purpose, generates, not only because there are people just doing that, even when you're the only person there does become a natural feeling as to its purpose. It isn't so much magical, although it seems that way, or a case of special properties, although it seems that way. If you go into a church, it's peaceful, it feels religious. If you go into a mosque, it's peaceful, it feels religious. Whatever your beliefs. If you go into a Buddhist temple, it's peaceful, it feels religious. A meditation hall, it isn't so much a temple, although it's going to look a bit like that, I think, but it's a meditation hall. It's going to feel peaceful. It's surrounded it's in a peaceful environment. You can hear the nature, the birds, the animals, you can hear the sea, the waves. There will be some, it's not in a totally cut off place, so there was always going to be some ambient sounds nearby, trains passing occasionally, a little bit of, if the wind's blowing in the right direction, a little bit of road noise from time to time. But essentially, yeah, there is already, for the first time yesterday afternoon, early evening, I went in there to take a couple of photographs, and it's not anywhere near finished and ready for use, but I just sat on the asana. This is the raised part where monks will sit, or in the case of, as it is, there's just me, I'll sit. And I sat there, and it immediately felt that I was in a meditation hall. Essentially, it's just stone, concrete, wood, clay tiles, cement. No different to here, but here feels like that. When I was living in my van, just an old builder's van, not a special camping van or anything like that, literally an old, empty, dirty old builder's van. It cost next to nothing. In fact, it was free. I swapped it for an old banger of a car. It was nearing the end of its MOT. So it wasn't, it was you can imagine this as a rust bucket of a vehicle. But I had a bit of plywood on the floor, and I made it look cozy and nice with candles and a Buddha Rupa and some tankas. They're those Tibetan beautiful hangings, wall hangings, and some various cloths and things like that. A little stove. That's all I needed. I had a bucket for washing and a bucket for going to toilet. That was all I needed. I lived in that for 3 years. And all I could do living in that place and on that beach was meditate. With my candles and my incense. And when people visited, actually people who even passed would look in, and if they caught my eye, they'd say, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I'd say, "Oh, I'm just meditating." They say, "Are you a monk?" I said, "No, I'm not a monk. I hadn't ordained then. But I'm thinking of that. This is my direction." And they often commented, "Well, this is such a tranquil place that you have here. This van is so peaceful. It's really got a feeling about it. It feels very spiritual," is the word people use. Well, it was just an old van, but all it was ever used for was meditation. The 1 meal a day, meditation, and little sleeping. No music, no television, no entertainment, no singing and dancing, no relationships, no overindulgence of any kind, sleeping little, speaking little. I think you can hear the train going by now, but that you find blends into the back. It's actually quite nice. It's a very nice sounding sound usually. So yes, I think it will have those properties. It already feels that way to me. By the time it's cleaned up, it'll be very simple, and there are candles, all those little coconut oil wick things burning, however it turns out, however it goes. Incense. I think it'll just feel like a very comfortable place to meditate. You go to Bodh Gaya or Sanat, Lumbini or Kushinagar. These are the holy sites, the pilgrimage sites, the 4 main sites the place of enlightenment and the place of birth of the Buddha, the place where he gave the first teachings and the place where he died. They're very busy places because they're pilgrimage sites, but those too have an atmosphere conducive to meditation. I've personally sat under the Bodhi tree at Bodh Gaya and meditated for 108 hours, not all in one go, but in various visits, mainly in one visit where I was there for 10 days and got the majority of that meditation underway, and then in subsequent visits I've completed that determination, for no specific reason, that number, but it was more than 100 hours, and I thought that would mean that I've definitely done 100 hours sitting in the location where the Buddha sat and became enlightened under a relative of the same tree, an ancestor of the same tree. And that was a determination and something I benefited greatly from. The atmosphere there is conducive to meditation, but you have to use all of your powers of concentration to not be distracted by the goings on, the huge number of ceremonies that go on both in the main center by the Mahabodhi temple there where I was sitting and in the walls surrounding that part, of all different traditions, different kinds of chanting, different kinds of approaches, people with loud hailers shouting, proselytizing, evangelical messages, all sorts going on, and even other religions, other faiths practicing their ideas there. It's all happening. So you really develop this skill of looking inwardly and focusing on the meditation object. And I considered that part of my training. It was my own determination, but I made it such that I needed to do this to show to myself and no others that if you make a determination and stick to it, it has enormous benefits. It's developing self-discipline, if nothing else. So let's hope so. Yeah, let's hope it's a wonderful place to meditate and many will come. Oh, it's all lots of questions about the hall. Someone said, you must be very pleased with the beautiful hall. Think of those who are less fortunate, who have little or no shelter. Well, it is for everyone, and it is those that we're thinking of, people who are less fortunate and have no shelter, or perhaps more that have nowhere to go and sit and meditate. It's open to all. So it isn't a house for anyone to live in. It isn't a facility as such, although it will have such facilities eventually for visitors, toilets, but it's a place for people, anyone, from anywhere, to come and sit in a safe environment and practice meditation. And if they wish to join in or take Tisadana Panchasila, refuge in the Triple Gem and the 5 precepts, or other Buddhist devotional practices they may wish to practice there. So this is the purpose and this is the thought. It's a community project come from the generosity of this community to help the broader but local community externally. It's also provided a considerable amount of work, therefore money, livelihood, and good livelihood for many people in its construction that would otherwise have had perhaps little to do. And it will continue in its maintenance to provide such opportunities for local people. So it is, as a result of your generosity, a very altruistic and beneficial contribution to this community this local community and this country. And this has all just come about through a determination and an idea a month ago, at the beginning of the Vasa, of which we're not even halfway through yet. And it's already looking like it might be complete by the end. And each day, those homeless locally, when I'm on Pindapata, I also share, give them, we speak, I say hello, and I give them some food. Many of them choose to be living here. You can live outside here, but I appreciate in other countries, there's always people suffering. And we share metta with those, compassion, karuna. But we cannot change the world. We cannot help everyone. There is always suffering. This is samsara. But by developing our own practice, we can, by example, give others the tools to help themselves. And I hope by this example of your generosity, and in the future people coming to meditate here or there, and that being seen by people online and such, will inspire others to do the same where they are. Oh, it's all questions about this hall. I was not going to talk about the hall today, but it's the only questions that are coming up. In the new meditation hall, would you consider doing questions and answers sessions there with potential visitors and students? I think it would be great. Well, yes, if there's people there, then I'll combine what we're doing here, your questions and answers and comments, with their questions and answers and comments. However, saying that, although I'll record these in that hall, because it's going to be a nice place to do that, I don't want people to be in constant fear they're being filmed, and only if they want to join in a recorded session, then that will be the case. It won't be, well, if you want to come and sit and ask questions or have guided meditation, you have to be recorded. Not at all. Most of the time there'll be no recording going on. There'll be no smartphones switched on in the building. So that's the way it should be. Its purpose is for meditation. But yes, there will be questions and answers sessions at appropriate times, both not recorded and recorded. So I have many people visit me here, just in this kuti or on my veranda, and we have long questions and answers sessions. And I did once, with the people's permission, record one of those, film that, and that was okay. But it tends to break the natural feel of the situation if one asks the permission and sets that up, or makes that the arrangement, so to speak. Because obviously people aren't always going to feel at home, and they're not always going to feel that they can say no either. So never do I want it ever to be a case that people are forcibly recorded, whether they're, backs to the camera or anonymously or whatever. I don't think that makes a good, conducive environment for meditation. It's a safe place, it's private. But yes, there will be specific sessions, these ones particularly, questions and answers, and I will invite people, if they wish to join those sessions and they know that it's recorded, to do so. Including yourself if you want to come. I think you know who you are. And here's another question from you, the same. You saw there's a couple of rooms in the Samadhi hall. Can you explain those and how the structure will function? Well, there were. That was the original building. It was 3 or 4 rooms. But all the walls are gone now. That's why there are those columns in the middle, because there needed to be a supportive structure to tie in the external walls together and to hold the roof up. So no, there's no separate rooms. There's a veranda. It's all open plan. There are currently no doors. And I'm actually thinking of maybe even keeping it that way. Because what is the point of doors, really? You only have to open and shut them, don't you? So I might put the original doors on the back entrance, but the front, one of the doors will, I think, become... I'm not really sure it needs doors. This is another one of these little... Everybody will want to put doors there. Oh, you need to put doors on there to lock it up. Well, I don't want to lock it up. I want it to be open. So we'll see how that goes. Your comments, your suggestions are very welcome, please. Also, on that note, if you're still with me and not disappeared through boredom, how is it sounding? I've had a few technical issues. It's been a combination of internet and equipment. We've gone back to the old system now because the new system, or a trial system, didn't seem to work so well. I'm not sure. I didn't receive any negative comments, well, maybe one or two, but I found when I checked the videos after someone bringing it to my attention, the lips weren't syncing with the sound, and the sound quality wasn't so good. So I hope now that has resolved itself. By comparison, this video, today's talk compared to yesterday's talk. So today, when you're watching this, is Thursday. If you compare this to Wednesday evening's talk, I'd very much appreciate and welcome your comments as to which you prefer. To me, to some extent, they all look the same, but I've heard otherwise. So please, your suggestions for that and the Samadhi Sala are really both positive and negative, are always welcome. It's all yours, you see, not mine. This channel, that Samadhi Sala, if I walk away, go away somewhere, it all remains the same. Just maybe without me talking. So how would that go? I wonder how we are for time. So I think I'll have to skip that question because there's a lot of description that I haven't looked at previously. Oh, we've got it. Well, we might as well continue with these hall questions. I suppose if I've posted those photographs just so as you know how it's progressing, and you can see where your kind, generous donations have gone. You can see the work. You can see the result of your punya karma, your good karma, manifests itself in stone and cement and concrete and timber, hardwood timber and roof structures and clay tiles and soon to come paint and all of this. It's all there, visible for you to see in the posts section on this channel, if that's available to you. So you're asking what's the estimated seating capacity? It's a very technical question. I've no idea. It's about, I don't know, 4 or 5 times the size of this room. How many people could you sit in this room? 1, 2, 3, 4. I just think it's probably no more than, it's probably 30 people comfortably, and at a push a few more sitting on the floor. So it depends how people come and how they wish to sit. Many people here like to sit on chairs. They're not so used to sitting on the floor, like in Thailand and in India. So I have to take that into account. But I mean, a chair doesn't take up any more space than someone sitting as I am now on the floor. In fact, possibly a little less space. So we will probably get a whole lot of those simple chairs for people if they wish to sit on a chair, which is why we've created the asana. So I can still sit like this. Monks who want to sit like this can sit like this without people being in fear of sitting down whilst a monk is on the floor, so to speak. They'll feel it's that they're appropriately seated. To me, it doesn't really matter. I'd just like to all sit on the floor together. We can do the layers thing with our sitting cloth here, so there's never a Vinaya issue there. But people are very conscientious of that here, so I have to bear in mind and respect their feelings. So how many? Yeah, 30 people in there. But then they can overspill out onto the veranda. If it's all open with no doors, you see, that opens it up for that. Oh, and will the hall be accessible all hours of the day? Well, yes, even if it has doors, they're not going to be locked. So you can meditate, as I will be sometimes, meditating all night. On Impositors, I'm looking to sit in there and meditate all night, and maybe we'll be able to bring some of that to you by way of live sessions on YouTube. So someone, just finally, if you suffer from opiate use disorder in this lifetime, that's a nice expression, but an addiction to using opiates, which are a drug of some kind, does this mean that you would have suffered from addiction in a previous life? No, not necessarily. It could do, but we can't know this. But your tendency, in terms of the defilements, is, it's a combination really. It's a little bit of greed, hatred and delusion. Greed because you want something. Originally you wanted something that you didn't need. But the reason you wanted that thing that you didn't need, although it could have come as a result of, I don't know your history, sometimes this can come as a result of using painkillers for pain relief and then becoming addicted. So excluding that, if it's just come as a result of wanting something that you don't necessarily need, come from greed, and that's begun your addiction, it's come from a place actually of hatred, not liking the situation the way it is, the truth of the situation, and wanting to try and mask that situation, maybe having tried alcohol or other things and that not worked, by a stronger drug, such as an opiate. So it's a sort of not just greed, it's hatred also. To get away from what you don't like, you're hiding from what you don't like in a drug, masking it, befuddling your mind so you can't experience what you don't like, hiding from the truth. So it's both greed and hatred, but all exacerbated by delusion, thinking that that was going to work. It's just pure, it's ignorance and delusion. Ignorance is the cause of addiction, not understanding that all our desires are insatiable, because everything is impermanent, unsatisfactory, and out of our control. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. So this is the cause of suffering. And we eradicate suffering, we end suffering by following the Noble Eightfold Path, which includes the 5 precepts, and includes in those 5 precepts not taking intoxicants. So it's very clearly delineated, set out for us in this path, this way of practice, how to avoid these situations. But now your situation is as it is. No point thinking of the past, how it could have been done differently, and no point imagining what's going to happen in the future. What you can do now is get as much help as there is available and support as there is available to help with your current condition, your current addiction, to get relieved from that addiction to that substance by whatever means is necessary and available to you. It may be difficult, It may be painful, both physically and emotionally. But ultimately, you will have freedom from that substance abuse. And let's call it what it is: addictions, substance abuse. Terms like opiate use disorder is just a softening of that. Then it takes away the sense of urgency to be free from that condition. Now, once again, it might not have been your fault. You could have been addicted to a drug that was given for pain relief, and this is very common. But still, the cure is the same. One has to be cured of that addiction. It's not how you got there, why you got there, although underlying problems that caused you to go in that direction, if they're still current in the present moment, also need to be resolved. But what we need to look at is the present. So if there's a problem that drove you to drink or to drugs, then that needs to be addressed. If you have an addiction to drink or to drugs, it needs to be addressed. But now, and with support and with help. And we're here to support you also. I'm here to support you also. Only in our thoughts. We can't do much actually or physically. But by way of company, friends on the path, spiritual friends, practitioner friends, Dharma friends, you have many here. So on that note, I hope there's something there you can use, useful. And if not, then just please let it go. Until next time, be happy and stay well. Sukhi Hotu.